All right. We're back with another episode of Hold That Show. We're doing it a bit different this time. It's going to be a more recorded one. You're going to like the nice little graphics and that. But it's been a couple weeks. We've been gone. We've been away. Life happens. But life is good. Chelsea isn't. I'm Abdalayini. I'm a Chelsea fan. And I'm suffering right now. But before we talk about all those things and more, I'm going to let my co host introduce himself.
Yeah, man, you know what it is, you know how it is. It's your boy Luke, obviously supporting the mighty Reds. We wasn't so mighty during the Europa League, but we already secure qualification at top of the group anyway, so it don't really matter. Obviously, the young G's got a nice little showing. Hopefully, that doesn't demotivate the lads against a big game this weekend. And I saw a stat that said every time Liverpool played Manchester United, a manager got sacked. It happened to Mourinho, it happened to Oli, and it happened to Ralph Ragnick. Let's try and make it a 4P if we can. I've been waiting for this day, and Marju knows that I've been waiting for this day. So let's get going, man. Let's start cooking and let's start chatting about these bum ass teams, especially your bum ass team losing to Everton. So let's get straight into it, fam.
Yes. Let's get straight into it. When it comes to my bum ass team, after a good win against Brighton, um, defensive solidarity towards the end with 10 men, but back to back defeats. The first defeat was disgusting, considering what's happened afterwards with Man United. We made them look like prime Brazil, 1970s Pele Brazil. We made them look like prime early 2000s Barcelona. We made them look like the 90s AC Milan and Inter Milan teams, Juventus and then Man there. We made them look like Man City that game. We got toasted. Um,
Really.
every second ball they got it, every move they did it. Yeah. Luckily, they can't finish to save their lives because that's the only reason why they did not score more. It should have been 7-8 that first game. That the second game we missed. But then then I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a response after such a bad result against Man United, our rivals. Um, a game where, for me, going into halftime, we were lucky for it to be 1-1 versus Man United. But then the second half, the subs, the way we played, um, yeah, man, it was absolutely terrible. Then the next game against Everton was just, I've never seen a team play so badly. And for me, Poch went back to his old ways. As soon as Reece James got injured, he put Levi Colwell left back. He was playing Conor Gallagher in the double pivot again. Enzo in the 10 when he's not a 10. And we had got nothing going forward. We we created some chances but not enough. Got like we had the possession of the ball, but we weren't doing anything with it. It was just side to side, forwards, backwards. Everton were comfortable. Then Decore comes with a banger, and then their second goal is in like the last minutes of corners. And we're meant to be one of the tallest teams in the league, and we keep conceding corners. So I don't know what the defensive coach is doing with these corner games. And for me, I blame Poch for these results because he's not using what he has to his disposal. We're lacking in fullbacks because Ben Chilwell's injured, Reece James is injury prone, Gusto wasn't available. The only fullback we had was Cucurella that was really fit like that. So what do you do? Go to three at the back. We had an abundance of centre backs: Colwell, Silva, Badeshile, and the Sassy. They're not the quickest. You can put them into a three at the back. Use um uh Cucurella as the left wing back in a more defensive style. So it's a four at the back when you're defending and a three at the back when you're going forward attacking. Have an actual attacking right winger on the right side, maybe a Sterling. Free midfield of Enzo Gallagher and um, Casado. And then a top two. You can have Palmer. You can have Broha. You can have whoever as Palmer as a false nine alongside Jackson, or Broha and Jackson as just two out and out nines to occupy the defenders because Everton are a physical team and you need to occupy them. And I feel like Pochettino isn't being creative and clever in what he's doing. He's doing what Potter did last season. He's playing not to lose rather than to try to win or to change things around. He keeps making excuses, talking about we need more players. We spent 1 billion. There's enough players there to get the job done to be not finishing 12th in the season. We're not the 12th worst team out in the league when it comes to our squad. And injuries is no excuse. Everyone from the top to the bottom is getting injuries. But the difference is between us and these other teams is the top out on the top 10 apart from Man United, every single one of those teams has an identity and a system. And we live in a society and a football time where it's about systems. It's not about individual brilliance anymore. Only United are doing that, and you can see it's not working. It's gonna be found out, and eventually they're gonna be tumbling down the table. But every other team in that top 10 has a system that they can take one out, put one in. And it doesn't matter if they use youngsters, if they use backups, if they're using 15, 16-year-olds that are just making their debuts. They play the same way, play the same system. They don't change it. Pochettino hasn't implemented a system. The system he had during preseason, he abandoned it as soon as a couple injuries. That's not what I want from my manager. I want my manager to to have the conviction to play the system regardless of the players, just like Ange Postecoglou, just like Klopp, just like Pep, because they know sometimes they don't have the players available, but they're gonna play the same way because that's their style, that's their football. They don't break from it, and if the guy's not good enough, eventually he'll get moved on and replaced, i.e., a Calvin Phillips for Man City, a Jordan Henderson for Liverpool, and even if you look at Brighton and those teams as well, they're gonna replace these guys eventually. And the guys that they sell on for 100 mil, they got a replacement already in the wing that's doing the same job and playing the same level of football. So it's not hard, it's not difficult. Pochettino needs to do more. But I digress. It's enough. I've talked about my club enough. I would like an outsider's view. I would like an outside point, and I would like to hear what Luke Adonis, the magic man, has to say about my club. Go ahead.
Do you know what? Yeah, I enjoy bantering you about your team, and obviously we like to go back and forth about your team and obviously my team. But obviously I'm gonna have a serious head because for me, I mentioned it before this week or even last week actually. I feel like it's 50-50. I think 50% is Pochettino's fault, but I think 50% is the board's fault, the owner's fault. I think when you're coming into a club, you shouldn't be buying all the best young talents. You should be you should be having that one-to-one meeting with your manager and finding out what he actually wants to try and implement his style. And I just feel like Todd Bowley just splashed the cash and bought anyone and everyone. I can guarantee if you was to sit down with Poch and ask Poch, like those players that's come in throughout those windows or throughout the window that he's there, are those the players that you actually want? I can guarantee he will say no. And I feel like for me, I just feel like uh, Todd Bowley set Graham Potter up to fail, and Pochettino is also the same as well. He's being set up to fail because I feel like when you're going into a club like Pep, like Klopp, you go in with the understanding that these are the guys that I want to try implement my style. When Pep came in, he said we don't have fullbacks. He spent that one season going out and buying fullbacks. Same with Klopp. Klopp at the time didn't have stuff at his disposal, so what he said was, you know what? I'm gonna go in. I want to play my style, but throughout the season, I'm going to pull it in bit by bit. And then eventually he managed to get those guys that he currently had to play his style. And I feel like with Pochettino, the players that's come in is probably not the players that he wanted. And the reason why he's playing players out of position or XYZ is because he potentially don't even trust some of the players that he has, which is why he's doing that. So that's why 50% I think is Todd Bowley's fault. The 50% in Poch fault, which is where I 100% agree with you, is as a manager and knowing what he did at Tottenham Hotspur, he played three at the back at Tottenham at times. He did. He did it sometimes at Southampton. I don't think I saw him do it at PSG, but he knows what to do when it comes to three at the back. Now, as you rightfully said, you have a plethora of CBs and FBs who are currently out injured, fullbacks who are currently out injured. So what you want to do is you want to utilize the strength that's at your disposal, and that's centre backs. Outside of Thiago Silva, you have centre backs who are PMP. They're semi quick, but they've got strength for days. Most of them are at least 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". Utilize that at, at your disposal. You know, this isn't a Harry Maguire thing where you need the slowest guy in the middle and have two left-sided and right-sided to try cover. All of your centre backs are practically quick. So you want to use that to your advantage. You've already got Enzo and you've got Caicedo who can mop up and sit in front of that back three and protect the wide areas of the wing backs if needed. And then on top of that, you've got a little bit of pace if you wanted to have the likes of Raheem Sterling playing a wing back role or Mudryk playing a wing back role. I think Mudryk and Raheem Sterling would work well in that wide wing back role because you're asking them to come in from deep and they've got the pace to do that. So utilize that. Then Nicholas Jackson, clearly he's struggling trying to be the hold up guy or the lone striker. So why not have someone that will float in behind him, like a Cole Palmer, as you rightfully said. He's been one of your best creative player and probably the best player. And it's funny because as I go back to the point that I said in terms of Poch might not want the players, Cole Palmer was someone that he said he didn't want. But evidently he's the guy that you're having to rely on for creativity. So it goes back on the point that I just said. But I digress from that anyway. So you've got Cole Palmer there in the 10 position or even in the false 9 position, you know, pivoting, running the channels, etc., feeding the ball to Nicholas Jackson. So you've got that two man up top. And I feel like with Nicholas Jackson, he needs someone to help him. He's the type of striker that probably needs a second man, like a Eski Owen or Dwight York Cole sort of combination. He seems like the striker that needs that. He doesn't seem like the type that can hold it off, hold up the ball, or bring people in terms of a lone striker because sometimes you need to do that. You know, we look at Darwin Núñez. He's not the greatest of finishers, but in terms of the threat that he poses, in terms of creating space for the wide man to cut in, or just always being a consistent threat, running off the shoulder, running in the channels, holding up the ball, trying to feed in Mohamed Salah. You know, he's good at that. So he's someone that don't necessarily need to have a striker next to him. He's just raw when it comes to finishing. But Nicholas Jackson don't really show those sorts of qualities. So I feel like he probably needs a Broha, as you said, or a Cole Palmer. And I feel like if Pochettino does or implements the three at the back and potentially does that formation, you guys will probably be looking a lot more frightening, a lot more fretful, and I feel like the losses and the draws will turn into 3 points on a consistent basis. But I feel like Pochettino is playing himself into a sackable offense, like Graham Potter did, playing himself into a sackable offense, and I feel like sometimes at some point you have to hold up your hands and be like, maybe this guy isn't the right person for you. Like, he didn't really do much at Tottenham Hotspurs. Yeah, it was probably the best era, and you know, he should have won at least one trophy, but he didn't. He went to the easiest league in terms of PSG, and that was probably the first time in their history since the Arab money that they've never won a trophy. He's now come to Chelsea, and yeah, at the moment, they're probably not expected to win any trophy. But at the same time, with the players that they've brought in over the years, and these guys are decent players, by the way, they're not shit players, they're actually decent players, and you can't get the best out of any of them, maybe this is just not your level. And maybe you might need to manage a team outside of the top six or even outside of the top 10. Maybe if De Zerbi was to leave, maybe you should go to Brighton. You know, it's not a diss to Pochettino, but sometimes if you've been given opportunities to manage at the highest level and you still haven't won anything and you're still making mistakes, maybe this level is just not for you. I don't know if you agree, Margie, but that's just my outside perspective looking in on Chelsea on both Todd Bowley and obviously Pochettino.
Yeah, I agree with a bits and bobs of it. I think in terms of Todd Bowley, his under 25 policy hasn't fully 100% worked, but it's a kind of thing where I truly believe that he needs to bring maybe a couple more experienced heads, a couple guys 25 to 29, into the squad that has that that kind of known quantity of winning, of quantity of quality kind of thing. Because there's a lot of young players that need help, and um, Raheem and Thiago isn't enough. Thiago's only gonna move on in a couple years anyway, or next summer. So you need a bit more kind of Jorginho type players, kind of thing. If just some leadership in the background. They don't have to be starters, but they have to be guys that can be around these youngsters and teach them in different ways, because that's what these players need. A Mudrik right now needs a winger on his side that can teach him when to run, when to slow down, when to do this, when to do that. Because then you see a lot of these players are always offside, or the disciplinary side of things, getting a bunch of. We're the highest in the league in terms of yellow cards, red cards, stuff like that. So that's another thing, a naivety with the disciplinary stuff. So there's a lot of things that you can learn through experience, and I think adding experience to the squad will be something big. And yeah, I think Pochers just hasn't got it right just yet. I'm still gonna give him a bit more time, but there needs to be a point where he needs to turn around these results and start winning games, because there's only so far we can go down before the fans turn on him completely, and he has to watch out for fans eventually saying, "Nah, this is not good enough for me," and I'm not having it, kind of thing. Because you can get to the point where if the match going fans turn on you and they start booing week in week out, and then it starts becoming toxic like Arsenal in the Wenger days, at that point it's unobtainable, and that's what happened towards last season with Potter. He got so bad that people were just hating on him. And the thing about Poch as well, because he has that Tottenham tag with him, it doesn't help that he's affiliated with a rival club as well. A rival club that don't really win much, so that's even worse. It's kind of like a club that known for not winning, and he's not winning with us, so it's kind of like a twofold. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what he can do in the upcoming games. But we move on from Chelsea. We move on from the sadness, the tears, of mid-table mediocrity. We're mid-table mandem. We move to the upper echelons of life. The caviar, the champagne, the top class, first class. Top of the table. Um, Winning games the hard way. But we talking about Liverpool right now, top of the table. Obviously, they're not like Arsenal and them, man. They're not going to be celebrating before before the season ends. Like Tottenham did. Tottenham was celebrating a couple weeks ago. Where they at? Where they at now? Arsenal last season, 93% champions. But Liverpool, they've been here before. They know the shark that's in the water. They know the whisper that they can. Man City, Man City. They can hear it. They've heard it before. They've been there before. But I feel like it's different this time. I feel like when you look at Man City, they're not the same. And when you look at Liverpool, I feel like them being at this position without a known DM, it's a scary sight. It is a scary sight, and I think they remind me of the early Liverpool, the rock and roll Liverpool, with a young, exciting midfield, with Soboslai, with McAllister, and with Gravenberch. They've added some much needed youth to their midfield, and I think Klopp is being able to implement his style again. But It's not my team. That's what I see. But Luke Adonis, how are you feeling about your club? How are you feeling about being top of the table? How are you feeling about recent results? Is there anything you want to change? Is there anything that's not going right? Think because it may be top of the table, but not everything's perfect. Is there anything that you want to talk about, in particular in the previous weeks of games?
Yeah, and that's the key point that I want to point out. It looks like everything's good, but no, we are not perfect at all. I think, yeah, we're top of the table, but I think real Liverpool fans know that we're probably an upset waiting to happen. I'm not saying this being a pessimistic fan, I'm saying this being a realist. We struggled to create anything against Sheffield United. Yes, we played well, but we played well in a sense of dominating the ball, but lapses of concentration almost allowed Sheffield United to get somewhat of a point or even a win against us. We've then obviously travelled to Crystal Palace. I was thinking the exact same thing. Um, if we play against Palace the way how we played against Sheffield United, it's going to be a long day in the office, and rightfully so. The same thing happened again. We went away to Crystal Palace. Okay, yeah, we might have dominated the ball, but again, lapses of concentration, too busy playing a high line, trying to dominate in Crystal Palace's half, has obviously meant that it allowed Palace to capitalize on any counter attacks that was available to them, and that's exactly what happened. Again, yes, we played well in a sense of dominating the ball, but in terms of creating chances, there weren't much chances that we were willing to create. Slobosly was non-existent again. Mohamed Salah looks like he's pretty tired. He looks very predictable. He looks like he's doing the same thing all over again and it's not working. I feel like he's overthinking, and he was overthinking that 200th goal. Hopefully now that pressure will come off because he managed to score it. But I felt like he was just doing too much. Again, against Sheffield United, Endo played well. He was neat, he was tidy when it came to ball retention of the possession. He was great. He played it safe, and that's what you need to do as a DM. I personally feel as a DM, I want to see my guys playing forward passes like Fabinho used to do. He always used to do diagonal passes, trying to split open the defense. That's what I want my CDMs to do. Obviously, Endo is a completely guy. I don't think he has that in his repertoire, but he's doing the simple, basic stuffs. Winning the ball, getting into challenges, trying to go for those 50-50 tackles, those aerial duels. When he does win possession, he's passing it back to defense. Let the defense try and cut open the pass, make diagonal passes. Okay, cool. He did none of that against Palace. He got bodied, absolutely bodied in that game to the point where he had to get subbed, and rightfully so. I think that game was out of his league and out of his depth, and I feel like with Endo, that's probably just going to be his career. Some games he can play, other games he can't play because he's just not physically capable of dominating in that position, which is his natural position. Now we move to Darwin Núñez. Both games, he's been shocking, absolutely shocking, and I'm sick and tired of Liverpool fans gassing him up. I think, yeah, like, cool, as a striker, he's doing the basic stuff. He's getting in the box. He's putting himself in positions. He's creating for other players. Fantastic. That is your job. I don't understand why Liverpool fans gas this guy up to think that he is the next Haaland when he's not. He's been in this team now for 2 seasons and he still looks like he can't finish his dinner. That's a problem. I'm seeing too many Liverpool fans getting gassed and saying he's going to come good and comparing him to Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez was not of this planet. He's a different technical being on a different planet. Guys like Luis Suarez is of the names of Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar. Like, Luis Suarez is on a different planet of Techville. Darwin Núñez is not on that level and probably never will be on that level. So I'm sick and tired of Liverpool fans gassing this youth. How many times does Darwin Núñez have to be in a 1v1 position for him to finish his dinner. He should have finished his dinner. There was even an opportunity where he should have chipped the Crystal Palace goalkeeper, but he didn't. He shot straight. As a striker, natural instinct is to chip. If Salah was in that position, he would have chipped. That's the difference between the two. One is a killer and one isn't. One is a cub. That's what he is, a cub. For me, Liverpool need to go out and sign a number 9. I said it. For me, Darwin Núñez is a Divock Origi replacement. He's someone that can come off the bench because the defense, the midfielders are tired. He's someone that will be frightening when it comes to coming off the bench and creating space and opening up for the wingers, for the midfielders to come in. That is his role, and that is the role that he needs to be playing. I feel sorry for Cody Gakpo because I feel like out of the two, Cody Gakpo is gonna offer more out of the two. He will. And I feel like we shouldn't be sitting here defending Darwin Núñez now. We shouldn't. So for me, Liverpool need to go out and sign a new number 9. If Liverpool were serious about winning the league, that needs to be top priority, along with a CDM. Now, Marju's right. The fact that we are in a top spot without a designated CDM, it is frightening because it means that once we get those missing puzzles sorted, we will be unstoppable. But for me, it's a concern that we're at the top. I'm not gassed that we're at the top. I'm not. For me, the fact that we're at the top and we're riding our luck through matches without a CDM, for me, it shows how terrible the rest of the teams are, in my opinion. It highlights that the rest of the teams in this league are not of the levels where it should be. And it goes to show because of how bad City is. And I think we can say City always starts off slow and then build momentum, but this isn't the same City team. I don't think we can say that about them now. I feel like now we're really starting to see the levels that City has actually dropped, and they're not on the levels that they should be. And I personally don't feel like City will kick on now. I don't, because I feel like teams have now started to realize how to play against them. You saw that Luton versus Man City. You saw how Luton bodied them to get their first goal in a corner. City defense got bodied. They didn't even pick up my man, Adebayo. It was easy for him. So for me, I feel like this league is there for the taking for at least one team to go on a consistent run. Now, Liverpool have the experience to do that, and I have no doubt that they potentially could. But I feel like for me, there's too many weaknesses in this Liverpool team that's just going to hold us back from actually winning this league. Yes, we will be in a top 4 100%. There's no doubt about that. But to win the league, we're only there temporary, in my opinion. I don't think we're going to go on to win it. We don't have a solid number 9 that scores goals. Our two double pivot CMs at the moment have not kicked on how they should have. One is playing as a CDM when he's not in the McAllister. He's an actual 8. So his confidence is being devoided of being in that position. Number 3, we don't have a CDM to protect the defense. Number 4, the defense are pushing up too much, which is allowing us to concede a lot of counter attacks. And it doesn't help that Trent is pushing from his position into midfield. Yes, he's our most creative player, but I feel like sometimes he needs to understand when to actually sit and be with his back line, his back four, and when to actually bomb forward. I don't think he's got the actual IQ in that department. All he's thinking about is attack, attack, attack. When the football is not about that. You need to have the balance. That's why Kyle Walker has been lauded over the years, because Kyle Walker has always had the balance of attack and defense. He's not the same now, but prime Kyle Walker was dangerous, and that is the problems that we currently have. If we didn't have Alisson as our goalkeeper, we probably would be in the same position Chelsea is in, and that's real talk. Alisson has actually saved us in numerous of games. and it's very frightening that there's Liverpool fans out there that are gassed that we're at the top when if you look at the bigger picture and look through the papered cracks, there are cracks in this team. And I think if we go out and smash Manchester United, which I actually don't think, I think we will beat them, but I don't think we're going to smash them. I really don't. And the reason why I say that is because of the two previous games that we've had, and just this season as a whole, it's just been a weird season. But for me, I feel like if Liverpool can grind out the results that they've been doing, um, and come into January, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we go out and actually make the signings. Maybe we might not go out and sign a number nine because maybe it might be a bit too much. But I think the priority right now is a CDM and a centre back. Those two are literally the priority. Obviously, the third priority is a right back if we are going to persist with Trent moving into midfield. But I just don't see the how because Klopp is so stubborn and he loves Trent drifting in from that role. I just don't see him viewing that as a priority at the moment, although it should be. But I think, yeah, come January, we need to make those two position signings for sure because those two positions, especially a CDM, will be the difference between us actually winning the Europa League and winning the league. If we just don't sign anybody, we probably still could win the Europa League because it's a different competition. It's more European based style. Liverpool's got the European heritage, so there's no real reason why we can't actually win it. But I just think from a league perspective, though, if we don't sign a CDM, then us winning the league is just not going to happen. But it would be such a typical Liverpool thing for us to actually win the league without a CDM. Like that is something that would happen to Liverpool. But yeah, that's my thoughts anyway. What's your thoughts from an outside perspective, Margie?
Um, overall, I think with Liverpool, they do need a DM. They do need a DM, but it's kind of a thing where, for me, it's kind of like I would say this. I would say this with Liverpool. I think they the main thing they need more than anything is just is a DM, but that's we already know that. In terms of striker, I'm not sure. I think you have enough firepower, so I don't think strikers should be the main priority. I understand maybe if Ivan Tony level strikers available, then maybe go for it because you'll rather want to sign that player than actually have him go to a rival. So I think if Ivan Tony's available, plus he's a Liverpool fan, it makes sense. It just makes sense to bring him in because it will add a different dimension to your club because he's more of a he can get headers. He likes to actually fight with the centre backs and provides Liverpool a different kind of style. I think it's the same. I think it's kind of a thing where you need a different type of striker, really. If you look like a Taiwo Iwani type striker, I think that would be great for Liverpool to have just because it means that they can have something different off the bench.
We had him, but we sold him.
Yeah, you even had what's his name? You have Solanke. You know, he's been looking good recently. Former Chelsea and Liverpool player. So there's I think there's strikers available for you to like get and kind of like look at. But yeah, I think DM is the first. Then maybe a if you're gonna get a striker, you need more of like a 6 foot plus beast of a striker, you know, in the Drogba mold, and then yeah, right back is after that. I still think centre back is a big thing needed at some point because I think um as good as Joe Gomez and Matip have been, I think they're liabilities in the long run. And Matip because of age, and Joe Gomez, I just think he's not been the same since his major injury. I think you see he lost the step. He's good as a fourth piece, but not as a third choice centre back. I think you need something better, especially you don't have many left-sided centre backs. Guardiola was a player that you were linked with before you went to City, and that kind of type of player is something that you need to look at. Um, Someone like a Van de Ven, kind of like quick, left-footed, provides to be able to provide Konate an actual partner. If you got Badashile, I think he would have been perfect for Liverpool. That kind of centre back, because him and Konate together would you're gonna see in the future is gonna be something special, both on the international stage, and France have a bunch of centre backs, so they're stacked right there. But overall, I just think Liverpool are worth their weight in the position. I think they, as I said, they're the only other team that can win the league this season outside of Man City. And for me, it makes sense that they're in this position. They're the only team that can capitalize on City's losses, and they're the last team to win the league against City. So they know how to do it. They have the players that are winners. They have the experience. They have the youthful midfield. They have the goalkeeper that's world class. I think best in the league by far. And they have a bit of everything. And they have Van Dijk back to not his best, but close enough to it where you look at him and say, yeah, he is the Premier League winning defender that you used to know. So I just think it's just about patience and getting and making the right moves in January, and I think yeah, you'll be there or thereabouts in both winning the Europa League. I think you'll win that, and I think you'll be up there in the Premier League, and I think you're gonna win it this season if City don't get their act together. So if if I was gonna have an outside shot of who's gonna win it outside City, it's Liverpool for me. I don't think Arsenal or Tottenham are gonna be anything close, and I think Villa eventually will fall away because they'll succumb to the fact that they're in Europe and the squad is very thin for them. So I think over time they're gonna have to succumb to the fact that their players are just gonna break down eventually, and that home record can only last for so long. So plus away from home they're not great. So I think yeah, when you look at the other teams around, Newcastle have problems, Brighton have problems. Yeah, a lot of these teams are just not on Liverpool's level at the moment. And I think Liverpool are back to the level that they were a couple seasons ago when they were the second best team in the league competing with City, and I think they're back to where they basically just told Arsenal to boy down and move along. It's our time now. You had your one chance, you had your one dance, but yeah, man, we're back. You told Lego Hood to boy down and move along. Yeah, it's too late. That's what Klopp said. Klopp said, yeah, I remember when you came round to my stadium and tried to talk big. But yeah, no, the real big ones are around right now. And yeah, man, it's looking good for Liverpool to be honest. But
Yeah.
we move from that. For this segment, we're both gonna pick a match of the weekend that we want to talk about, a match that we think has big effects on the league and a result that we were kind of surprised about. So, Luke, I'm gonna let you start off. Is there any match over the weekend or over the past weeks that you were like, wow, I didn't expect that, I didn't see that coming? Anything in particular that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Good Evening Revenge tour completed. I'm talking about Aston Villa versus Arsenal. This isn't really a result that surprised me, but I'm actually happy that he beat Arsenal. I feel like he was the right manager, but at the wrong time at Arsenal. I feel like he wasn't given the time. The same amount of money that Mikel Arteta has been given, he wasn't afforded that same money. I feel like he came in at a time when Arsene Wenger left, so the toxicity was very much high. And he's always been a good manager. I feel like he's always been an underrated manager, and someone like him who has European pedigree, who's known for dominating in Europe. I feel for me, Aston Villa will potentially win. What's it? The Conference League that they're in. I feel like they will potentially win that. I feel like he's a manager that Arsenal should have respected at the time and given time, and we're showing what he actually can do now at Aston Villa. We laughed at him when obviously Newcastle slapped them up in the beginning of the season. You know, I laughed, but obviously Aston Villa has turned that defeat around and now they're in a position where everyone has to take them seriously. granted, they will potentially fall down the table, but I just think for me, it's just good to see Unai Emery do well with a club that actually has European pedigree. Let's not forget Aston Villa used to be in Europe before. You know, um, so for me, I feel like he's taken them back where they should have been. I feel like for me, fuck you, Steven Gerrard, because you actually potentially destroyed a team that Unai Emery has now turned into an actual beast of a team. I think he's challenging every single top six team that is going to Villa Park or who is playing against Aston Villa. They're being a threat towards those types of teams, and they're a headache for any team that comes up against them. And I feel like for me, you need teams like Aston Villa. Um, Obviously, Newcastle's got their problems, but they will eventually come good. Um, West Ham, Brentford, like you need those sleeping giants to upset the team and make the league, worthwhile, make the league watchable, you know. And yeah, bruv, I felt like the match was a good match. I feel like Arsenal tried their best, but their best just wasn't good enough. I feel like Unai Emery came in with a game plan, and they did what they needed to do, and they played phenomenally well. Aston Villa. I think for me, they're come the end of the season, they're probably going to be um, probably team of the season. Just because the signings that they made in the summer window were just pitch perfect signings, underrated signings that flown under the radar. He's actually made Leon Bailey look frightening again. Everyone knew who Leon Bailey was, but he just didn't deliver to the ability that I personally knew that he can deliver to. But he's turned that boy into an unbelievable beast. And to be honest, he's actually kicked Musa Diaby out of the team. And Musa Diaby is a baller, an absolute pace merchant, but Musa Diaby can barely get into the team right now. Um, and that's saying something to what he's done to Leon Bailey's career since being there. So, he's turning average guys like John McGinn into ballers. John McGinn ain't even a wide player, but he's putting man out wide, and he's now unlocked a creative demon in John McGinn, someone that can score goals. So that's the type of manager that you need, bruv. Like you need a world class manager to come in and make picture perfect signings, but at the same time, develop the guys that they got and turn them into average Joes into world class guys. Klopp's known for that. He did it to Sadio Mane, he did it to Mohamed Salah, he did it to Virgil van Dijk, he did it to Philip Coutinho, Roberto Firmino. I'm gonna regret saying this, but Jordan Henderson at the time, Andrew Robertson, the names and the list goes on, and that is a mark of a world class manager. So for me, I'm not talking about this match from a perspective of wow, what a match, but I'm talking from a perspective of good evening, got his revenge, and we need to not sleep on Aston Villa because they're going to be a threat throughout the season. They will potentially drop out the top four. As Margie rightfully said, their squad is quite thin, but they are a team that we need to not sleep on because they're on the up, and we need to look out for them in Europe right now because they're probably the favourites to win the competition. So yeah, that's me.
Nice, 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 nice. For me, the game that I looked at as the game that was like wow was outside of the big guys. Actually, it was a game that I wasn't expecting to happen. Fulham 5, West Ham nil, and for me, West Ham is a team that they saw Declan Rice, and I thought they bought really well. And towards the start of the season, you saw the likes of Ward Prowse, the likes of Alvarez, and the players that they had as a relatively good team overall. And I don't know what's happened. I think maybe the manager's not good enough for the squad. I think maybe David Moyes' time with West Ham is up. Um, they did win the Conference League, the UEFA Make a Wish Trophy last season. So, you know, them winning that was good for them. But I just think the dropping that they got against Fulham is something that shouldn't have happened. I think West Ham are a superior team to them, and to be getting dumped up by Big 4-5 Iwobi and the likes of that, and then getting dumped up by Jimenez rolling back the years. He was playing in his Wolves form, and um and then even William came to play. Man decided he was Brazilian again. He's been Peru for a time. Man decided he was he was Brazilian. He
Uh,
uh, man
it's
des-
true.
man decided that he wanted to play again, and for me, I think that game was a madness, was an absolute madness. But yeah, overall, I think that's the game that I look at as the surprise for me of the weekend. Outside of Everton beating us, because that just pissed me off more than anything. That wasn't a surprise. That was more just Everton. You know what? The thing about Everton that I would add to Everton, for me, is they're already outside of the relegation zone, and they got a -10 points. Imagine they should be in the top 10 right now if they didn't get their points deduction. And it shows that Sean Dyche is playing a different style, but he knows what he wants, and he knows what he wants from his players and his team. And you can see it that he's doing the bits, he's doing the business for Everton. And I think eventually, if it the way it's going, by the end of the season they may be above us, even with the 10 points production. So it's looking peak out here, but Everton are looking good. And yeah, Everton and Fulham, yeah, they're two teams that are surprising me this season, because Everton was a team that I thought would have got relegated, and Fulham, I think, are a team of like past players or past demons, and they seem to be clicking at the moment, which is looking good. But West Ham, you need to get your act together. You got quality ballers, and maybe Moyes' time is up. But yeah, that's all I got to say
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. I do want to quickly say two things. Is Everton? I feel like Sean Dyche is actually playing the Burnley style with them because if you look, he's actually set them up as sort of like a 4-4-2 formation. He's got Decore with Dominic Calvin-Lewin, which is sort of similar to Chris Wood and Andy Gray, I believe his name was. Um, and I feel like that's the sort of system that is working for them, with the core just sitting off, being like almost like a false nine or a cam roll or centre forward, I should say. And he's just dropping from deep and just doing those Mirandan runs, and it's working for them. You got two big strong guys in Lewin and Decore, and it's working. I feel like that's the system that's allowed them to climb up the table, and I feel like that's what he potentially should have done in the beginning, to be fair. But I feel like now they're starting to click into gear and they're playing that Burnley type of football, and it's working. So yeah, it's good. I feel like them getting that 10-point deduction was probably a fire in a belly moment for them, because obviously they've been shocking before,
Yeah,
and I feel like now that sort of ignited some sort of motivation for them to go out and just feel like, it's Everton against the world, and they've just gone on a decent run, and I feel like it's good. And there are rumors that they potentially might get a further more points this deduction, and I think at this point this is just ridiculous. Now I feel like you got Man City that's been charged 115 stuff, and it's like, why are you still focusing on Everton? Like, you've got what you needed, you've got the evidence for Man City. Go out there and just charge them now. But yeah, that's that on them. And then with the West Ham situation, I feel like this is sort of similar to the Arsene Wenger thing, where Arsene Wenger stayed at Arsenal before his time. Like, he stayed there too long, and when Arsenal got to that Champions League final and lost against Barcelona, unfortunately, obviously we all know what happened, and the scripting that was in there and the corruption that was in that game. I felt like Arsene Wenger should have left at that moment because that was probably as far as he could have taken Arsenal. I feel like now is the same sort of situation with another London club with West Ham where David Moyes has obviously finally won a trophy for West Ham in I don't know how many years. You know, they can say something that Arsenal can't say, which is I've won a European trophy. But I felt like that was probably at West Ham's peak that David Moyes has taken them, and I just don't think David Moyes can take them any further than that. I think he's won them a trophy. He's obviously got a trophy in the bag for himself, which is a rarity. And I just feel like at that moment that's probably the time for you to step away because once you win a European title, there's more pressure that's gonna come along with that because they're gonna be looking at you and think, well, you've won a trophy, like you need to now go on and try break into the top four or even try break into the Europa League. And I feel like they're nowhere near close to doing that. And I feel like they've digressed, they've gone backwards. So I feel for me, as I said, I felt like at that moment, the board should have said, okay, thank you, David Moyes, for your service. You've taken us as far as you can. Now we need someone that's going to take us into the upper echelon and crack the top four or crack the Europa League. And I felt like that's where the West Ham board dropped the ball with that because now we're looking at West Ham thinking, well, they've signed ballers, absolute talented guys that really should be reflecting in the performances, and it's not. And I feel like David Moyes is probably looking out of his depth in a sense of how to get the best out of the players that he's got. Because right now we're looking at that West Ham team, and every match that I've seen West Ham play is all stemmed from individual brilliance. It's actually not stemmed from actual team performances in most games, and that's probably because the manager probably doesn't know how to coach the ballers that he's got to blend them into a perfect consistent team. So in my opinion, I feel like yeah, it's probably time for him to go, and maybe someone like a De Zerbi needs to leave Brighton, step up to the big boys, and go to West Ham, and maybe dominate with West Ham, you know, or maybe even go to a Graham Potter, go there, like someone that can play attractive football needs to be managing this West Ham team because they've got the players to play attractive football. But that's just my opinion on both situations anyway.
That is some good points when it comes to Everton. I think they are playing that Burnley style, and then with West Ham, yeah, it's about time that David Moyes moves on and they get a more attacking style manager to suit the likes of Bowen, to suit the likes of Lucas Paqueta and stuff like that. So I think it will be more beneficial for them in the upcoming uh summer to get a new manager in. I think if they want to reach that next level, they need to get a better level of manager that's playing a more offensive style to suit the talents that they have. But yeah, it's been a good episode. We're gonna end
Yeah.
in a hold that to a couple people. Hold that Chelsea, you lost. Hold that Arsenal, you lost. Hold that United. Not only did you lose, but bottom of the group of Champions League, 15 goals conceded. You're breaking records, breaking barriers, out here showing new levels of crap, new levels of ass, new levels of BS. You're the reason that we're not getting the fifth spot. Hold that to Newcastle for for being out of Europe as well. But at least they gave it a go. They gave it a try. They went up against Dortmund, PSG, Milan, and they tried every game. They got screwed off by the refs in one of those games. That penalty that should have never been given, and unfortunate to what happened in the Milan game. So you know what? I'm not gonna even be too harsh on them. They've got a bright future. But you, Man United, disgraceful, making England look bad, making other people putting out posts saying Farmers League, like we're the Farmers League. Only two teams that made it to the next round. Spain having four, Germany having three, France having whatever, and only two teams, and one of them we know one of them ain't winning anything. So it's one team. Let's be honest. Arsenal's like half a team. Let's be honest out here. No European heritage. They can't even win Europa League, let alone Champions League. So it's a long day for England in Europe. Um, but yeah, that's all I gotta say. Anything else you want to add, Luke, before we go?
Yeah, I just want to say it's such an embarrassment on England's behalf. England was not represented at all. I feel like if Liverpool was in the CL this season, we would have been better than United in that group. So yeah, it's an absolute joke that this is probably the first time that England's actually been embarrassed like this in a very long time. Normally England teams, the British teams are normally the most dominant teams when it comes to CLs, and we're always top in the group or even finishing second at least. But for two teams to not even make Europa League, that's such a waste of a spot for teams like Liverpool, Chelsea, if because normally Chelsea would be in the CL, so it's such a wasted spot for those two teams that went out. And I don't even care that Newcastle tried. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, bruv. Like at the end of the day, you're meant to be representing the best league in world football, and only two teams went through, and even then only one team is probably going to be in the final out of the two. So like it's just a disgrace, bruv. So I'm actually disgusted at the fact that only two went through, and United and Newcastle bummed the CL like that. But it is what it is, innit? Like hold that to them, and yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, 3 out of the last 5 Champions League winners were English teams: Liverpool,
See,
Chelsea, City. But 2 of them aren't there. We can't represent. At least when we're in Europe, doesn't matter what we do in the league, we represent in Europe. We
it's true.
represent. But
Exactly.
but that's it, man.
Heritage don't lie, fam.
Exactly, exactly. But we're a bummy team right now. We're not going to be back there for another couple of years. So you're going to have to, Liverpool might be back there sooner than us. I think Liverpool going to be back there next season, and I think I'm going to put a bet down now that Liverpool probably win their seventh title next season. If because the way Europe is looking, I ain't gonna lie to you, there's not many teams out there that look good, and I think Liverpool with the right pieces next season Champions League, I got them on my list for the sixth. But yeah, another great episode. This has been Hold That. It's been your host Abdallah Yini. And yeah, if your team's lost this weekend, hold that. If your team drawed this weekend, you didn't do good enough. Hold that. And if your team is in the relegation zone, hold that. Anyway, this has been Abdallah Yini, Luke Adonis, Chelsea and Liverpool, and we out. Yeah, yeah.